Hello, English 403. I'm Emma, and I'm here to do my Module 3 reflection. And so I'm just going to jump right in. So I chose to read the article, The Histories and Mysteries of Grammar Instruction. And just like how the title suggests, the main idea is that there is a history and several different misconceptions to grammar instruction. So in the very beginning, the author decides to give a couple of different definitions that are important to understanding the rest of the article. So one of those definitions is syntax, which I'm sure we've all heard before, but it is the arrangement of words and phrases to create well-formed sentences in a language. Morphology is one that I hadn't heard before, and it is the study of how words are formed in a language. Semantics is the meaning of words and the vocabulary choices we employ. And descriptive grammar versus prescriptive grammar. So they're very, very similar. They almost sound the exact same, but they're very different. So what the definition says is descriptive grammar is the language that we actually use as writers and speakers, pretty much the basic idea. So what I'm doing right now, is descriptive grammar. You can hear me talking. What I'm saying might not necessarily be correct, especially if you were to put it down on paper, but it is the kind of grammar that I use every single day. This is my grammar, if you will. And then prescriptive grammar is the way that people should speak and write. You have all of your rules that you're following. You have your, you can easily determine which the noun is and the verb and like all that fun stuff. That is your prescriptive grammar. And so prescriptive grammar has this notion that it is correct. And when we teach this, students kind of get the idea that they need to be perfect. They need to be correct, especially if you decide that to teach grammar, which I don't think any of us are going to teach it this way now that we've been in this class, but you have your worksheets and then you are going to go over verbs and you're just going to really hammer in like where the verb goes and all that fun stuff, all of those rules. And so it has this idea and the desire to be perfect or correct. And it has this idea that this type of grammar leads to success. That's why we teach it. But in this article, there was a quote right after I said that, right after the success, and it says, adding this type of grammar to children's repertoires can open the door to educational success, keyword, and socioeconomic mobility. The word adding is where the controversy lies. So it's saying that if you can speak properly and you can write properly in this correct form of grammar, that you're going to go places. And I think all of us know that that is not necessarily true. I mean, me right now, like, you came here to watch my videos so that you can learn something new. So even though if you were to sit here and write down all of the things that I'm saying, it might not be specifically correct in English language rules, but you are still learning something. I'm still going places. I'm still succeeding in my descriptive grammar. So that's why it's not always correct. So then we get deeper into the history of grammar and how it kind of turned from being this really fun thing to something that we don't really want to do anymore. So there was a quote that I wanted to share, and it says, grammar was fully realized in language itself, in fluid, flexible, lively, ever-changing, emotional, beautiful, stylish, graceful language performance. I don't know about you, but that's not really a way I've ever heard grammar talked about before. It hasn't been beautiful. What? Beautiful grammar? What? It's not emotional. It's not graceful. It's just this thing. It's just these set of rules that we have to listen to. But that's not what this is saying. This is saying that the history of grammar started as this really great thing, this thing that was just beautiful, and it almost sounds like life-changing in the language performance, like you're performing language just by grammar. And that was something that really struck me as different because I had never heard it being described that way. I did hear it described that way recently with the image grammar that my group is reading for the group project, and kind of how grammar is described musically, and that's kind of what it made me think about. So that was one thing, but it changed from that. So this way of teaching language helps students to shape their own language in essence, meaning that students were able to kind of see the fun side of writing, the fun side of speaking, and be able to pretty much doing what I'm doing and shaping their own language. But then everything towards the idea of having to be correct and how proper and acceptable things needed to be during the Elizabethan times. So that is where everything changed from being fun to, okay, now we got to have rules. We got to follow the rules. And that's all grammar is rules and corrections and your red pen. Like, that's where this comes from. But, so in the article, it kind of said how we went from teaching grammar and everything, and that's what we needed to do, to all of these rules, and how teaching grammar kind of faded to the background. It wasn't this thing that we really talked about. But then now, like, with that need to be perfect, like, we had to start teaching it again. And so what teachers did is teachers went, wait, like, we didn't study this for who knows how long, so how are we supposed to teach it? And so what this article is saying, that instruction was hard because teachers themselves are insecure in their own grammatical knowledge. What? Teachers are insecure? Who would have thought, you know? But, so in the article, they pulled a quote from NCTE saying that teachers should reject approaches to grammar and usage study that support the linguistic imperialism of prospective school grammars. And that's a lot of big words for saying we don't need to think this way. And so this is where the author gave the fix. How do we fix this? And gave 3 things. And the first one was integrate grammar into the overall language arts curriculum. You know, that means everything. That means grammar is not its own specific unit. We're not doing that anymore. Grammar is in reading, it's in writing, it's in speaking. It's what we're doing now. It's everywhere. It is not its own little box that you can check off at the end of the year. It's in everything. Okay, that was the first thing. The second thing is develop clear objectives for grammar instruction. Really great, because that's what we're doing now. You know, we're going to have this clear path so that students can see, like, what are we doing? Why does this affect meaning? How are we going to do this? How are we going to stay on track, but also make it fun, you know? And that's what number 3 was experiment with your specific classroom activities. Make it fun. Make it in everything that you do. You can have a lesson, have a project where instead of copying hundreds of sentences and then you take out your pen and you start marking them up, like, no, like, have your students speak. Have your students, you know, make a video and see, like, how they might use code switching, how they might try to be more formal than other times. And so that was something that I really like in general, because in my personal content area, in math, like, I wanted to make things fun. I didn't want to have students be like, oh, well, it's just math class and it's not going to be fun and we just have to do this so we can pass the test. But those ideas kind of correlate with English too, because there's a lot about the test, but I don't really want to go into that. But teaching this way gives students a way to learn grammar without actually having to learn grammar, which I thought was very interesting. And then the last thing that I wanted to bring up was how this way of teaching implements one of the standards that we talked about. And the standard that I saw was determine the meaning of words and phrases as they are used in a text, including figurative, connotative, and technical meanings. Analyze the cumulative impact of specific word choices on meaning and tone. And so I just kind of thought how you can use this way of teaching in the article for teaching towards that standard, because you can analyze your specific word choice, but also take it a step further and analyze the grammar that was used. And so that is what I read, and I hope you enjoyed what I said. See you in class.